I'm Cyclon, and today I want to share with you my updated 3.25 version of Legion Dunes farming. Now, I'm gonna state it right now at the beginning. I think Legion right now is an A-tier strategy. It is fairly decent, but it's not what it used to be, like massive amounts of profits in very little time. There had been changes to it with the stack decks, with the desire of emblems, and overall Legion is still very solid, but it's not a really good strategy, it's just a really good one. You can expect about 10 Divines Hour in profit if you liquefy most of your Legion loot. Now, if you're gonna look at my spreadsheet, the first thing you will notice that my consistent and inconsistent profit looks like about 1 Divine and about 3 Divines. The reason for that is that I only consider a very basic core of the loot as consistent and inconsistent. And most of the Legion loot nowadays will be in a form of consistent lucky drops. And I will explain this a bit further when I get to my in-game stash, and I'm gonna show some of these items that I'm considering consistent lucky drops. Now, another aspect of this league is the drops. I consider the gold. And I consider the gold having no direct value, although it has an indirect value, so it is considerably interesting how much gold did I get. So let's take a look at these step by steps. First of all, what is our investment and what are we setting this up with? The passive tree is nothing special. The passive tree I will be recommending here needs 127 points and is Legion with Scarab and maps. We are utilizing maps to first start sustaining our maps, and once we sustain and once we have enough, we can swap to any map that we want to sell, and then we can power sell maps. The second thing that I'm utilizing on this tree is Scarabs and Shrines. Now, there is a reasonable argument to just drop Shrines, drop a little bit of map sustain or Scarabs, and pick up Beyond. The option is there, you can go for it if you want to. It should help with the overall profit of the strategy, but it will require more investment if you don't want to drop out of your Scarabs. So if you're going for Beyond, you could go something like grabbing these, dropping that, grabbing this, here and here and here. This results in full Beyond, but then we need more passive points. So we need to drop a little bit more out of these nodes. And this would then, for example, be no Scarabs drop, just a little bit of map sustain drop, but Beyond gives us that map sustain back. And the Shrines dropped. Oh, actually, we have Shrines here. We can keep a little bit of the map sustain. So this would be an example of having no Shrines and having Beyond added instead. I will, for now, just link the one without Beyond because it requires less passive points, and I assume that the people that will be picking up the strategy don't have exactly 132 passive points, so they can keep the Scarabs and Beyond, and I think having the Scarabs is slightly better than having Beyond. The Scarabs we are using. So first of all, I would prefer to run on Dunes. You can run Jungle Valley or any map you prefer, but Dunes is overall still the best map for Legion. Then we're using 1 Legion on the map device, 1 Legion on the tree, and 3 Legions with Scarabs. We combine this with 1 Scarab of Officers, which affects all Legions. It will guarantee 5 officers per Legion side. If the Legion spawns properly, if the Legion is at a wall, there will only be 5 additional officers on one side of the Legion. So we assume that there's always 1 Scuffed Legion, and then 4 decent legions, so that is 45 officers, 45 officers, 45 rewards minimum, 45 additional rares. It's just really powerful to have when you have that many legions. The last spot we could have used another Legion Scarab, however instead I decided to go with the Horn Scarab of Nemesis. This makes all our officers, which we just established, we get additional 45 officers just from the Scarab of Officers. And this one just results in all of them having many stealable mods. They will drop better loot, they have mods we can steal. So if you have a Headhunter or 2 Inspired Learnings, this is really good. Speaking about Inspired Learning, very quick information on this. If you only have 1 Inspired Learning, don't go for Horn Scarab of Nemesis, go for any other Scarab that you prefer. Horn Scarab of Nemesis is good when you have 2 Inspired Learnings, because then the likelihood that the Inspired Learning steals the same mod is lower, or if you have a headhunter and steal all of them. With 2 legions, I'm usually sitting at 60 headhunter buffs, and that feels really awesome. Also, do remind to use your incubators. If you have ornates, use ornates. They have a 1 in 3 to get you a divine, and for each set of 10 incubators you're using. If you don't have ornates, you can use skittering, diviners, thaumaturge, or Kygurian incubators. Now, looking at consistent and inconsistent profit, people will note and say, wait, this isn't as much as you're doing. And this is because I'm not considering many drops part of the consistent and inconsistent drop pool, but more like consistent lucky drops. But because they're hard to categorize and sometimes you get a bit more of one part, sometimes you get a bit more of another part, I didn't edit them to the spreadsheet. As a base level, this will make profit, this is really important to know, and then you definitely gonna get a lot of these drops. And I will show them in a bit when we get in-game and I show my actual stash. Another important part to note is that I have added gold, but I haven't assigned any value to gold. Gold allows you to utilize your town and gives you buying power by utilizing the auction house. So we are getting about 13.4k gold per map, but that's at least on average. We then get a good chunk of stacked decks and chaos per map, we sometimes get some annulments and exalted orbs, and we sometimes get some divine orbs. Now again, these divine orbs are including drops from ornate incubators, which definitely added a lot of divine orbs in this run. Don't underestimate them. So I ran these maps with about 5 minutes per map. Sometimes I had a 4:30, sometimes I had a 5:10. My average time was about 5 minutes. Now I am using a headhunter, and I also recommend the strategies to people using inspired learnings. So for those, we are expecting, rather than 5-minute maps, we expect like about 6-minute maps, which isn't hampering the profit per hour too much. And if we look and include divines, we are looking at set of about 3 baseline profit per hour at about 2.5 divines baseline profit per hour. Now, once we head to in-game, which in-game, not end-game, I want to talk a bit about stuff that I haven't included. I have not included the 9 T17 maps I've got dropped. I have not included the Forbidden Sanctums in that I've gotten. I have not included the blueprints or the rogue markers. I have not included any interesting synthesized or fractured items I've gotten. Nor have I included lucky jewels. They are noted here on notable drops. I've evaluated about 15 divines in lucky drops, but this is purely for my baseline result, which again still isn't the actual result. So you get real world uniques, you get interesting mirrored items, you can get even a lucky seer that gives you a T0, and if you're more lucky than me, it wouldn't be a kitchen knife, maybe it's a headhunter, or maybe it's a Ralakish Impatience, or what the boots were called. You're gonna get some random daily mirrors, which might give you a cluster, and those could then be, wait, I have an example here, could be of a higher item level. There are a lot of things that you could get that could add value to the strategy. You could also, what I haven't added is at all any of the embers, which to be fair are fairly consistent, but I just not add them because some people like to go Ether. So, and I don't want there to be a big difference in the estimated value by going Exile or Ether. So those add a lot of value. Overall, there's just a lot of things that, or I also haven't included any of the scarabs that I've gotten. And we get a ton of scarabs from this. Not as many with T17s, but we get a good chunk of scarabs. So there's a very little baseline value that I'm considering on my spreadsheet. Just be aware of that when looking at a strategy. The numbers there as a baseline, and usually you get a good chunk more. So if we're looking at Wealthy Exile, because at this point I'm planned to liquefy everything with the gold I've gotten dropped and only use the auction house as much as possible. But a lot of these items I actually need for future strategies that I'm planning to do in the next days. So I can't liquefy everything and show you a final divine value. So we will be going with Wealthy Exile. I've already trimmed a lot of additional value. So if we look at my last snapshot I took yesterday, this was right after the farm, and then to today, we lost about 7 divines in currency, 2 divines in small fragments. Like, these are things that sure, they add up in value, but arguably those are things that most people will never sell. So I just removed them to make it more realistic so that we have just the big drops that sell and currency that sells easily in bulk. So we assume we made about 89 divines in the revenue. Now this is not including my cost. If you're buying everything at single value, you're expecting to spend about 15 divines. However, what I did, I bought them in bulk, I tried to buy them quickly, I just wanted to start running Legion, and I spent about 19 divines. So we are looking at roughly 70 divines profit, with me taking 5 minutes per map. This meant it took me about 8 hours total to run. So we're looking at 8.75 divines profit per hour. Now, 8.75 divines is roughly 10. If I would have added more of the other stuff that I've looted, kept it in, liquefied that as well, I could have easily went to 10 divines, but I'd rather have a simple set of sales, or theoretical sales in this case, and say that this is 8.75 divines an hour, which is still in a pretty good state. If you do this for a day, 2 days, depending on how much time you play, 3 days, you are able to afford a headhunter. So it's really still a very solid strat to get started and get your first big items. All this being said, video doesn't need to be longer than it has to be. If I have a wonderful day, if any questions, you can ask me in the comment section. Live on Twitch, I'm streaming currently every single day. Or you can join my Discord and ask me there, or DM me if you don't want the question to be public. Now, really, all that being said, have a wonderful day and goodbye. I'll be seeing you either live on Twitch or on my next video.